Welcome to the virtual Wednesday edition of Getting the Word Out from the Bethel Baptist Church of Pasadena, California, where John T. McCall is our senior pastor. We pray that our Bible study ministry blesses you greatly. Meanwhile, if you'd like to be a blessing to the Bethel Baptist Church ministry financially, you can do it at bethelpasadena.org. Just click on the Giving tab and follow the instructions. Your support of this ministry is greatly appreciated. Our pastor is coming with an anointed word. Again, thanks for joining us here at Bethel Baptist Church of Pasadena.
Welcome in, Bethel, to our virtual Wednesday Bible study. I am excited today about our special guest as we make every effort to bring the Bible contemporary today in light of what's happening in our country right now with the COVID-19 virus, issues of police brutality and racism. I thought today I would invite and have for our special guest a retired Lieutenant Rodney Wallace of the Pasadena Police Department. And I guess what I'm more excited about is that he's a saved retired police brother and a church brother who understands both sides, God and police. And so I thought today I would invite him to come and share with us. And I'm going to let him tell us who he is and give us some of his history. And then we'll come back and we'll chime in with some questions. Welcome, my brother.
Thank you.
Welcome
Thank
today,
you.
man.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank you for even thinking of me and inviting me.
Yes.
So it's a great opportunity. Well, I'm Rodney D. Wallace. I always like to have the D in there. And my father was Carl P. My grandfather, Elias P.
Wow.
And so we've always had that initial in the middle. Rodney D. Wallace. I was born in Montgomery, Alabama in the early 50s. I guess you could say my first experience in the civil rights movement was the bus boycott there in '55. Of course, I was just in my mother's arms, but I was there. Okay. We moved west, and I grew up in Nickerson Gardens. I know there's a lot of superfluous information, but it's really important. Grew up in Nickerson Gardens after my father got out of the Navy, and we were there during the riots of the 60s. Shortly after that, then we moved to Altadena, went to Elliott and John Muir. And now I go back to Nickerson Gardens, and when I was there, never saw any kind of interaction with the police. So they never did anything negative to me, but I saw some of the different things that were going on in the gardens that I didn't like. But I was too young to really understand it, so it was what it is. But it was definitely not a profession I was interested in.
Wow.
I had no love for the police. Moved here, fast forward, graduated, and I started working for the Pasadena School District. I was actually housed, assigned to Madison Elementary School. Okay. Hooked up with a police officer that was there at the school through the School Resource Officer Program, Officer Rick Carino, Hispanic, and he and I got to be pretty good friends. And he suggested I get into law enforcement. And no, the thing that's interesting, I had a cousin who was into law enforcement, and he had been talking to me about getting in. And so between he and Carino, then all of a sudden I said, let me go ahead and check it out. Okay. Got involved, and I guess you could say the rest is history. It took me about 3 times to go through. First couple of times, unbeknownst to me, apparently the city was going through a hiring practices thing, and they lost.
Pasadena?
That's Pasadena.
Okay.
Lost the lawsuit, and I was given application with the opportunity to go through the process 3rd time. Started not to, but anything that's worthwhile, my father used to always say, it's going to be a little bit hard. So I decided to go ahead and try the 3rd time, and then the rest is history. I've enjoyed the job. I really did enjoy the job. Put 34 years on right here in Pasadena. 1 year I was in another city, but 33 of those 34 years I was right here in Pasadena. raised 6 kids here in Pasadena as I worked here in Pasadena, and have never regretted that move. But it came from a position where this is not what I wanted to do. I did not have any love for the police to a point now where I looked at it and I've been there. And it's a great job.
So, so you're from the South.
I am from the South, Montgomery, Alabama.
Right, I'm from Louisiana.
All right.
A little place called Pineville, Louisiana.
Yeah, yeah.
And so maybe that's the click of this thing of being down south and growing up. How long were you in the South before you came to California?
It's only maybe about 6 years, 5 or 6 years. So I was moved. I was still young.
Yeah, but your parents had that Southern upbringing.
Exactly.
All right. So you had no interest in becoming a police officer.
No.
Wow. And so 34 years.
Yes. So
let me ask you, what do you attribute you being successful and being able to do that kind of work for 34 years?
I wish I knew. I think if I could really put it down on paper, I'd be a millionaire.
Wow.
You know, but there was just so many different aspects of the job. You know, the ebbs and flows, and I'm talking about just me personally. Times where I couldn't wait to get out of there because I didn't want to be there, to a point where I knew that I needed to be there. You know, some of it was had to do with the impact that I believe I was having in the street with all the different communities, not only the community of color, but that was my focus. But citywide, I think I had a real good input. Impact, I should say, on a lot of the youth in all of the different communities. I felt I needed to be there internally because there's a whole lot of things that go on, and it's not so much because people are anti-black, anti-Hispanic, anti-this. It's just, you know, how do I say this diplomatically, but they just don't know any better. You know, some of us have been raised certain ways where, you know, some of the things that are said, some things that are done, it's a norm in their homes. Okay. Until somebody says, "Hey, dude, you know, like that don't fly here." Right. And so, what's the big deal?
So they're biases.
Right.
So they're biases.
It is their biases that they don't even realize are biases. I don't know if I don't want to take up a whole lot of time, but there was we had begun, the city of Pasadena started the Black Municipal Employees Association, and I had one of my co-workers, white officer, came over to me and I was really fuming. He when he came over to talk to me, he's already red, and we haven't spoken a word. He's already red. And then he comes and he starts talking to me and starts asking me questions about why I felt it was necessary for us to have this black organization, blah, blah, blah. It's going to tear everybody apart and things of that sort. And I let him vent. And then after he finished, then I just said, "If you're ready for me to explain?" And he said, "Yes." Still red. And I sat and I talked to him and I started explaining to him some of the different situations that had already gone on in the city. Some facts, and I pointed out different people specifically that had been overlooked, people that I knew that he knew that should have gotten certain positions, and he agreed with me. So I was able to lay out a lot of different things, and I said, these are some of the reasons. And so after we had that conversation, he sat back and he looked at me, he says, "I have a better understanding. I still disagree, but I understand it." Okay. And he and I, from that time on, he and I never really talked before. Right. We knew each other, you know, like you see each other on the call and we high five and all that other stuff. But after that, then we got to be real good friends. If there was something he didn't understand, he would always come to me. And that's one of the things that's lacking, I believe, is that so many times we as black folks don't want to educate. And that's what we need to do more of. Because there are, I'm going to be real honest and say there are a whole lot of folks that are out there that are just straight out racist. They don't want to know anything.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But there are quite a few also that really want to learn. I didn't know what I was saying and doing was wrong. You know, so we have to, and it's hard sometimes to try to figure out who's who.
Well, yeah, you know, and so one of the reasons I want to bring you here today, not just because I knew you and know you, but the Bible talks about speaking the truth in love.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes you got to have these hard, difficult.
Right.
You know, sometimes we call them these come to Jesus moments.
Yeah.
You know, these difficult conversations.
Right.
And so change never happens if you don't have the conversation.
Right.
And even though it may not bring change, it may bring awareness.
Right.
And thank God you were in position and willing to share and to educate.
Yeah.
You know, because all of us bring in our biases to all of what we do.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and growing up in the South.
Yeah.
You know, and how we were raised.
Right.
In our households, and even though growing up in the South, I didn't never really have any negative interactions with police officers. It always seemed though that there was always a black officer for the black part of town, white officers. You know, and so even though we lived in this town, we were really separate.
Right.
You know, and when we integrated schools, the conflict was there, and you were aware of that conflict.
Right.
And so you learned from it. But you're coming to Pasadena. I mean, 34 years.
Right.
I mean, you know, things are constantly changing. But I'm quite sure you've witnessed historical changes. You feel comfortable sharing some of those?
Well, it's not whether or not I feel comfortable. I got to try to remember some of them.
Okay.
You know, and one of the things that I think that we have to always remember is that simply because people look like us, they're not always for us as well. And you know, and so I think it was unfortunate I saw some of that as well. But it's really interesting, you know, going through, you know, and watching. And I was not there when the very first black police officer was hired, but his daughter-in-law was there. And so I got to know a lot of the history through them. There's a lot of times we don't do a good job in, one, telling our own history, and two, going back and researching our history. You know, but there's a lot of positive history here in Pasadena, and there's also a lot of negative history here in Pasadena. And like you're talking about, after nightfall, you can't be east of Lake. You know, there were some things that when I growing up, you know, you definitely don't want to be in some of the cities to the east. Certain areas of Altadena, you know, dealing with the sheriffs, you didn't want to be there. I remember when I was growing up, you know, because when we moved to Holly Slope Road, which is north of, just runs off of Loma Alta. And moving from Nickerson Gardens to Loma Alta up there, and when we first moved in, I didn't see anybody black. So I freaked out because I was trying to figure out what my parents had done. Little did I know, but there was another family, a black family on the street. I mean, they were very light complected. I from a distance, I thought they were white. You know, I just figured everybody around me was white. You know, so, but, you know, and that was during summertime. School started, and I was like, where did all these black folks come from? You know, but it was really interesting as I started growing up and started interacting with a lot of different ethnicities. Pasadena, in all honesty, for me, that was the best part of us moving from there to here, is because then I started interacting and learning how to deal with a lot of other races, a lot of other ethnicities, ethnic groups that I didn't even know existed. You know, because it was like, for me, it was like it's either black or it's white. That's it. Then all of a sudden I got here, and then you start, You're dealing with a lot of the Asian cultures, Armenian cultures, Indian. Growing up,
It wasn't that
you know,
way.
they're on television.
Yeah.
And but so here you got it was truly kind of a salad bowl here.
Okay.
I really hate the melting pot part because that means you got to assimilate into somebody else's stew. But you keep your own flavor, and that was the thing that was great. The folks that I met, the majority of them, they kept their own flavor, their own ethnic flavor.
Okay.
And I think that's what the positive part of Pasadena. Bad part was that you had you still had a lot of folks on the side that would get upset because you did not assimilate.
Okay.
There was a lot of that in the police department as I grew up, and that was the parts where I talked to the ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
I said, "Why the heck am I here?"
Yeah.
Because you had a group, not a group like there was this. But you had some people that would really get upset if you really should try to show your blackness.
Wow.
I couldn't help it.
Okay.
That's just the way I was raised.
All right.
I got kicked out of school. I got kicked out of school because they said that I was a militant.
Oh.
But all I did was just but I was a militant. That's all I was doing.
It's frightening.
Yeah. So, and the problem was that it was 1 year that we had left here, went to Long Beach, and I was in school there, Woodrow Wilson. They apparently had just done busing,
Okay.
and there were 3 blacks in my senior year, in my
Wow.
senior class. 3. So, when I come out there, like everybody else is kind of quiet, they're just doing their thing, they're going, that wasn't me.
It wasn't you, right? Yeah.
I had that Mustang gusto going.
Okay.
So, hey, but anyway, they tried to kick me out of school for that. But anyway, I had that same gusto going into the police department.
Wow.
I'm going to be me.
Okay.
And I'm going to fight for what I think is right. I didn't always know what was right, and I always do what's right. I'm not saying that I was perfect, because I wasn't.
Yeah.
But I was going to always strive to fight for what is right. Sometimes we get it twisted.
Yeah, well, let me step in, though, because you bring up some interesting concepts. Being a Christian, being a male, being an African American male.
Yeah.
How did your career path go?
The career path?
I mean, you came in as, I'm not sure what the ranking system.
Well, I came in as an officer.
Okay.
During the time I went through, you get hired as an officer and go through the academy. You're
Okay.
a police officer, the minute you get hired.
Okay.
Now you come in as a trainee, go through, and then you're an officer.
Okay.
But I came in as a police officer.
So let me go back. Say it again. So now you come in as a trainee.
Now you come in as a trainee.
Okay.
Then they send you to the academy. After you graduate from the academy, then you
Okay.
get sworn in as a police officer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I came in police officer, and I was not in the military, so I had no idea what other things I was going to be experiencing.
Okay.
But I kept on hearing, okay, get ready for this. You're going to be going to. It's almost like boot camp, blah blah blah. Come on, Gomer Pyle is the boot camp that I saw.
Right. Okay.
I should have gone back and actually rewatched what was it, the DI?
DI.
That's what I should have watched. But so first day I go to the academy, and this guy smoking the bear hat, he's yelling at me, calling me all kind of stuff, things of that sort. The first thing that hit me is that I know this. I know he is not. So I had to catch myself. I said, okay, so I went. Then I went and checked out the DI. I said, oh, that's what I'm into.
Okay.
So I got through. And you asked about the career ladder. Career ladder was not easy for me. And basically, a lot of it was because, once again, like my father used to always say, that little thing below your nose is going to get you in a whole lot of trouble.
Okay.
And I'd call it. You know, if I saw something, I'd call it. I didn't care if you were a police cadet just walking in the door or you're the chief of police. I'd call it. And some people would say, man, you know, you need it.
Wow.
I'm going to call it like I see it. So it was kind of difficult for me. That was one of the reasons that I left. I had that 1 year away. I left and just gone 2 months, and I said, I don't need to be here. Thankfully, I was allowed to come back.
Okay.
You know, and when I came back, I didn't change who I was. I just changed how I got my point across.
Okay.
You know, I was still the same person, and it was interesting that one little tweak. You know, all of a sudden, my career ladder goes. You know, and that was like, I had been in law enforcement like 15, 16 years by that time. You know, so.
Well, let me ask you about the training.
Okay.
You know, is the training designed to desensitize you to humanity and make you so what's the mentality behind the training?
You know, one of the things that it teaches you to enforce the law. It teaches you how to do the law, how to do your job, and to remain safe. It teaches you how to in essence, identify, arrest, apprehend the bad guy. It teaches you a lot of that stuff. What it doesn't teach you is how to just deal with people on a day-to-day basis. If you never got that before, then you're going to get this one. You know, like you're getting you know all your laws, you know all of this, you know all these other things, you know officer safety, you know command presence, you know all of these different things. You know, I got to do this, I can stand by. I know the tactics. You know, I got all that stuff down. All right. But it doesn't teach you something that, and I don't want to say that just we as black folks got it, but you know, there's a lot of other folks got it, but it's just one of those things that sometimes you can walk up to a situation, you can look at it, and you can say, this ain't no big deal. You know, it's a sense that you have, and I can't teach it to anybody else. It's something that's kind of innate in me. So it doesn't desensitize you, but you know, one of the things that I know that they started moving towards is having more. I forget the terminology they were using, but things, you know, like different training in there that would talk about how you deal with people, interacting with people on a more a calmer level, how you could bring down, de-escalate versus, you know, like how you get into a situation. They started talking a lot of that stuff a long time ago. But again, those are the ebbs and flows. You know, because those are things, when you really look at it, I can teach. I think most of the folks that have ever gone into the military will probably sit back and tell you, yeah, you can almost teach anybody how to shoot if you have them on long enough to, you know, in the prone position, you have them out there, you're going to learn how to shoot, and you learn how to just break this gun down and things of that sort. But the biggest job, I believe, in law enforcement is interacting with people. Not only bad people, not only folks that have committed crimes, with people. So, you know, you know, I think that's the biggest part.
Communicating and talking to people. And I wondered, you know, just preparing for today to meet with you, is there a difference in the mentality of someone who's been in the service, who's been trained to shoot to kill, and coming out and now becoming part of a police force where you lived in a community and your philosophy was relational, talking to people, knowing how to de-escalate, even though you may have committed the crime, you know, or just in a neighborhood. Does it make a difference? Is there a difference?
I can't say because I don't know.
Okay.
I've had some friends on the department that have been in the military. I mean, they were laid back. They were real chill.
Okay.
And I could find, and after a lot of years of relationship, found out that they were like part of the SWAT teams and things of that sort. You know, the folks that go out there to do that.
Yeah.
But they were real chill. You know, and then find some other guys that are still gun ho, and you said,
Post-traumatic stress.
yeah, you just look at goodness. So I can't say it's because of military or anything. I think it's going to be case by case. There are some people, I mean, really real chill, and then you got some others that 2, 3, 4. You know, oh, come on, dude, chill out. You know, you know.
All right, so I guess the elephant in the room is the George Floyd incident.
Yeah.
What's your view of that?
Yeah, you know, first of all, the guy was completely wrong. Some people say, well, this is his name. I said, I know his name. I don't care.
Yeah.
He's an idiot.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing that did not surprise me is as they start really talking a lot, digging in deeper and a lot of more in his history, talking about the fact that he had a whole lot of other allegations against him, and I think it was like 17 or 18, and why is he still there? You know, you know, and you know, it really bothered me. Someone talked to me immediately after that, and I said, and they were talking about, I just don't understand why the police are blah blah blah. I said, time out. From what I saw, it will not surprise me. And this is the thing that I think surprised a lot of folks. But I told them, I said, this would not surprise me if all of a sudden you saw a whole lot of police officers up in rage, because that was a straight out murder. You know, this is a guy that's sitting on this dude's neck, and almost like what are those hunting shows?
Yeah,
you know, think about it.
Yeah.
Think about it. You know, the hunting. This is my trophy, and he's just kneeling on his trophy.
Right.
I said, oh no. I said it would not surprise me if you had a large cry out from the law enforcement community, because that's a straight out murder. And what that one idiot did is just make everybody that wears the uniform look bad. That one guy. And I said there have been a whole lot of other situations that have gone on, and a lot of questionable ones. There's a lot of them that the guys have done wrong, but that one there, that one there, you know. And surprisingly, not surprisingly, but I was glad that my brothers and sisters in law enforcement came out in droves and were really upset about that.
Right. And I see on your church today, Noble.
Noble.
You want to talk about that?
National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. We have a San Gabriel Valley chapter. I am currently president. Been in existence. Our chapter has been in existence since 2003. Noble itself has been in existence since 1976. Now, for those folks that think that racial inequality is new, Noble came about in 1976 because of racial inequality in the ranks of law enforcement, municipal, state, and federal. And so there were some of the folks who had been able to rise up through the ranks that were able to pull together a conference. You know, can't get into how they were able to pull this conference together, but they were able to pull the conference together, and they talked about the inequalities not only in the law enforcement ranks, municipal, state, and federal, but also a lot of the different issues where we in law enforcement could positively impact the urban cities, communities, and things of that sort. A lot of the communities of color. So that's where Noble came together. It started long before 1976, but it actually, the conference and everything came together in '76, and that's where we started. There's a lot of people always ask, well, why is it that we don't see you on? Well, Noble does a lot of things, to change policy, to change procedures, because we're talking about like chiefs of police, the city managers, commanders. So you're talking about a higher echelon. So they are at the table with international associations of chiefs of police, and they sit down and have these conversations and bring about change that way.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think a lot of people don't understand that it's policy
Right.
that drives everything.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, what do you think? What do you think, given what's been happening over the last few months with the issue of police brutality? Mm-hmm. What do you think should happen in terms of local policy, state policy, national policy, as it pertains to the banning of chokeholds? Not just chokeholds, but sometimes I think the perceived aggressiveness of officers to come in and take charge and grab hold of people or sling them on the ground. So what do you think should be some changes?
If there's a tactic, and this is what has happened throughout the years, if there are certain tactics that are inherently dangerous, then they're always reviewed and make a decision to either modify them or no longer use them. Okay. In the late 70s, they had a chokehold that was called the bar arm. They got rid of that one. All right. Then
and the bar arm is?
This is your bar arm. It just comes up and you take them down, whichever way you can. Okay. It's called the bar arm. I don't know if that was the technical term, but it was one that was used by a larger agency in this area. And they got rid of that one because they were finding that you were having a lot of people that were killed and severely injured. You could go through, and then the non-lethal weapons came out because there were too many times where people would go from one level to deadly force. So we're trying to find some intermediaries. Okay. That's one of the things that law enforcement has always done. They you look at it, is it something that works? Let's make some changes. All right. Now, they're talking about getting rid of the chokeholds. Chokeholds, yes. You used to have a carotid control hold, which would hit the carotid arteries, and then you render them. That's what we used when I was there. But if people are using a lot of these different things inappropriately, you're going to cause problems. You're going to have issues. So they have to review it. Do I have a problem with them getting rid of it? No. The reason I don't is because if you are a student of what they're teaching you as far as the tactics, there's going to be all kind of other things that you can use. Okay. The fact that you have some officers that's going to stand up and say, well, if you're going to take away the chokehold, then I'm going to quit. Excuse me?
Yeah.
The bottom line is, as a police officer, your job is to try to safeguard all people, even if that means that you have to change the way that you do the job. Sometimes that's hard. That's a hard thing for us to swallow. That means I gotta change what I do in order to safeguard you. But that's our job. As far as coming on the scene and taking a step back and not taking control. No, I can't buy that. Anytime I walked up on a scene, everybody needs to know that I was in charge. Okay. And that didn't mean that I came out with my nightstick, my gun, and yelling and screaming and things of that sort. But there's different tactics and different ways. Exactly, different ways that you can make that happen. Some people may have difficulty, but when the police officer is called and the police officer gets on the scene, the police officer needs to take control. Okay. A lot of the issues that have happened, I've said, and I watched some of the different videos, and what I've seen is an officer is almost hesitant to take control, and then it spirals. Okay. When the officer gets there, that officer needs to take control. Now, here's the thing. It's not about what you do during, it's what you do before and after. If you've never taken the time to create a relationship with the community, if you've never done it in advance, it's almost like a parent who has never said anything to the kid except for punish them.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
And then afterwards, if you and I just like had a knockout, drag out, and things of that sort, and then I get you hooked up and I'm taking you to jail, I'm gonna basically dust you off. They say, "Come on, Pastor John, man, I'm gonna dust you off. I'm gonna take you off. You're still a man."
Okay. All right.
Yeah. You're not all kinds of this and that and MFs and things. You're still a man.
Wow. Yeah.
See, that's the thing that happens. Sometimes people allow themselves to get to the point where they say, "I'm the police, you're not."
Okay.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
You are doing a job. And in all honesty, if you really want to go back to it, the police are the community is the police. And when you lose that, then you've got a problem.
Wow. You're hearing part one of our conversation with retired Lieutenant Rodney D. Wallace from the Pasadena Police Department. I hope it's been informative today. We're going to break with part one, but stay tuned next week for part two. See you next week.
Thanks for joining our Wednesday night virtual service here at Bethel Baptist Church of Pasadena, California. Again, visit our website for giving information and more. It's bethelpasadena.org. On behalf of Pastor John T. McCall, thanks for watching. If you're ever in the Pasadena-San Gabriel Valley area, we invite you to come in and visit with us at 1972 North Fair Oaks, Pasadena, California. To order a copy of today's message or for more information, log on to bethelpasadena.org or call the church office at 626-794-3136.